Namaste, everyone. Michele Granberg here. Welcome to another episode of Positive Energy, bringing enlightening television for your evolving soul. Our topic on this show is the dairy industry. We're taught that cows are happy to be milked and that milk is healthy to consume. But what if everything we were told about dairy was wrong? My guest on this show is Shannon Blair, vegan activist. We're going to explore the many myths and misconceptions, as well as the truth about dairy from the disregarded cow's hidden perspective. Take a deep breath and stay where you are, because positive energy starts right now. So, hi Shannon, welcome to Positive Energy.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
So you are an activist for a long time, and you've been fighting for animals for a very long time, and I know you are outspoken and active on their behalf. Your message is one of compassion for the animals. So my intention with this interview today is to kind of clear up some misconceptions and educate about the dairy industry. And I wanted to focus on the cow's experience because I'm sure you'll agree cows look really happy. Everything that we are shown on milk cartons and in ads and commercials and in children's books show a happy cow. But there is another side of that. So could you talk a little bit about what you would want most people to know about the dairy industry and how cows are treated?
Definitely. So as a longtime animal rights activist and advocate, I wish I had this information so long ago, and it's so well hidden from us. Fortunately, now we have social media that's helping us to get the truth out. But yeah, I would like for people to know that cows, just like all mammals, produce breast milk only for their babies, and that they have to be pregnant and give birth in order for us to get their milk. And so it's inherently violent and inherently cruel. I had gone vegetarian when I was 9 years old, but didn't stop consuming dairy until almost 2 decades later because I really had no idea how this industry worked. And now I've been to so many dairy farms and of all different sizes, family farms and what are considered factory farms that have thousands of female cows. And there's one common theme. They're inherently cruel because they are sexually violating these female animals. And this starts when they're just a little over a year old, and it happens to them over and over again, usually 4 or 5 times that they're made to become pregnant and then have their baby, and then have their baby taken from them almost immediately. And then after their bodies become useless and we've taken basically all that we can from them, then we take what's left, their life. And most of the ground beef in the United States comes from what are considered spent dairy cows.
So since female cows, obviously the only ones to be impregnated, what happens to the male baby, the male calves?
So that's another really sad thing
It's
about
sad.
the dairy industry. Yeah. So I don't know what's worse. To be the one who's useless. And so that's actually the reason that we have veal. Baby boys are an unwanted byproduct of this industry. And so we basically ship them off to either these other facilities where they're kept for a few months before they eventually have their throats slit and are sold as what's known as veal, or a lot of the time there's no market or it's just too expensive to transport them, and so they're either shot in the head or dumped in a pit, just left for dead to either starve to death or be eaten alive, whichever comes first.
Yeah, and it's all standard. That's all standard practice.
Yeah, this is all considered normal and standard basically everywhere in the United States and different parts of the world as well. We see footage coming out of Australia and out of the UK, and it's almost identical to what's going on here in the United States. You really, if you didn't hear the differences in accents of people, the footage is all the same.
Yeah.
And it's just the only thing that really seems to vary is how many animals are kept on the property. And for the most part, from the dairy farms that I've toured in the last couple years, there are only female cows on these properties, anywhere from hundreds to thousands. And then some of the smaller family farms, of course, will have, sometimes even under 100. But they all have the same things happening.
Yeah.
Female animals being forced to become pregnant and having their babies taken from them, and then the males being useless. Yeah. And they're just a different type of cow than the ones that we typically raise for beef. However, there are people in the industry that are crossbreeding different types of cows, so that even the baby boys now are going to be a type that are being raised for beef, for their flesh, as adults as well. So there's it's a really scary, sad, disgusting industry that we really don't even think about our entire lives. We just are taught that, we drink milk and cow's milk makes strong bones, and then we find out that that's not the truth at all. The science doesn't show that one bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a system in place that we've come to accept these lies in some ways, and the cows are treated like commodities. And have you seen, in the footage or in person, when the baby cows are taken from their mothers, how do the mothers respond? Because a lot of people will debate whether they care or whether they have feelings. What have you experienced or seen?
I've seen so many videos at this point that show that those cows cry out for days, sometimes weeks. And on the happy side, I've seen several videos of them being reunited at a sanctuary, and they know each other, and they're very, very excited to see each other. And there's also situations where these mother cows have hidden their babies and even swam across bodies of water each day to go and spend time with their baby, but tried to keep them away from the farmers. Just last week, I went and visited some cows that are not at a sanctuary, that are on the side of a highway. And from a friend of mine who's spoken with the owner of the property, they're basically kept there for tax purposes, but he has several cows that are used for beef all throughout the area. And recently he had come along and taken about half the cows. It was a very small group on this property, so took 3 of the 6. And the one mother, from what my friend had noticed before, was like a very dedicated mother, just really protective of her baby, really loving towards her baby. Well, that baby recently got taken at almost a year old, and now her new baby that was born, she really doesn't want anything to do with her. And of course, I don't speak cow, so I couldn't ask her. Fortunately, there was another childless mother with her who had taken her baby in and was protecting and loving him. But I can only imagine why she wouldn't be so interested in this baby. How many babies would you be able to have taken from you over and over again before you just couldn't let yourself keep getting attached and doing that to either one of you? And that's not the dairy industry. That's the what's known as the beef industry. But there's some differences. There's not usually the forcible impregnation in the beef industry, but eventually family members are taken. Every so often, family members are rounded up and taken away. And so they're very good mothers, and they do care for their babies very much. Cows are just like us in all the ways that matter.
Yeah. So it's hard to imagine that any mother couldn't hear, what happens and feel some empathy, as a mother and, for a baby. And so, you, in your activism, you've seen, because all of what we're saying can be Googled, and anybody can read it. It's, it's out there. The information and the footage is out there. So what's it like for you, when you are doing activism and seeing this firsthand? What stands out in your mind?
I really feel like I'm in the twilight zone when I go to these places and I see these things. And when I talk to these really good people, the last dairy farm I was at in South Carolina, that I spent like an okay amount of time at, the owner of the farm, I mean, like, what a nice man. He seemed wonderful, aside from the fact that there were thousands of female animals that he was exploiting standing behind him. But like, as a human being, if you took that aspect out of it, something that he was basically born into, he was so nice. He was so kind. He expressed care for the animals and talked about things that made him sad. But this has all been so normalized to him, even more so than the rest of us. And, because he's seen it firsthand and participated in it on a different level for all this time. And he's not a bad person. But for me to sit and talk to someone who seems so genuinely kind and nice, but like I said, it has thousands of female animals behind them, that he's literally sticking his fist and whole arm into their anuses, and then another hole into their vagina to force them to become pregnant, and then continuously rips their children away from them. Like, that feels like you're in the twilight zone. And to just be outside of a place and to look at these rows of these hutches that each have an individual female baby in them that has been taken from her mother and can't have any contact with the other babies in the hutches next to her, can only see them. Like, I can't believe this is something that we as human beings are doing to another species. It seems like it's got to be made up. It's like, to drink some other species' breast milk. This is why we're doing all this. That the breast milk that's like terrible for our health, and that also causes all this destruction to the planet. I feel like I'm like in a movie, I guess. I don't know. It seems really crazy that and then the farms that we've toured, to hear the things that they're telling people. And the people who are not already privy to the information that I am are just taking it in and accepting all these lies and things that make absolutely no sense. And they're just like, oh, okay. Oh, so you're really doing a nice thing by ripping their babies away from them when they're like 24 hours or less old. And the people just kind of like accept all these. Okay, that's because they just tell them. They say, yeah, we take every baby away before they're 48 hours, or usually within 8 hours, whatever the standard is at each farm. Now, these days, they're just telling people because they just want to normalize the violence and what they're doing at this point. And a lot of them themselves think it's normal and okay. So.
Yeah, the pendulum has swung really far, in terms of normalizing and what we need to do to make ourselves feel better and all of that. But it's heartbreaking and certainly very extreme. What do you think it will take to have this change, on a day-to-day scale and on a big scale?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors at this point. I think education is the number one. Like, all of us who find this information out, not only should we make the appropriate changes and switch to plant-based options, but we also have a responsibility to educate our fellow human beings for various reasons, for their own health. They don't deserve to be believing all these lies that we've been fed our whole lives. And for the planet that we all share. Everybody should know what our choices are doing. And then, of course, for these animals, they've done nothing to deserve any of this. And most people consider themselves animal lovers and shouldn't want to be participating in this at all. So education, number one. But on top of that, we have a really bad system where, just money kind of rules everything. And we have these lobbyists and people
subsidies.
And so the government is bailing these industries out over and over again. And I think if enough people stop consuming, there's going to have to be a point where they're just not going to keep doing the bailouts. But we need to educate to get to that point, and we need to educate so that when we are able to get anything in front of the government, that we have the public support that understands what's actually happening, so that we can get rid of this nonsense. I mean, it's literally destroying everything. So it should just be a matter of everybody having the facts. And we're not baby cows. And health-wise, we're all much better off not consuming cow's breast milk. The National Institute of Health says I think about 65% of adults are lactose intolerant. So, and there's doctors that are speaking out, like Dr. Milton Mills, about how dairy is inherently racist as well. And so for the government to be having it in the food groups that are required. Canada's gotten it out of their guidelines. So hopefully it's up for review here now. Hopefully the U.S. will do the right thing and stop pushing another species breast milk on human beings and adults, especially ones that we know get sick from consuming these so-called products. But yeah, I think we need to share recipes, and we need to tell each other, our friends and family members, what brands to go with, so that money doesn't feel like it's wasted. Because these products, while they're still new, some of them are a little pricey, and so it's discouraging if you pay, $6 to $8 for something and then it doesn't taste great. But we can all tell everybody, Follow Your Heart's amazing, BioLife's amazing. I won't say anything bad about any companies on your show, but there's some really good ones. And 20-something years ago, when my cousin had me try vegan ice creams and cheeses, they weren't that good.
Yeah, so it's not an excuse anymore. You can find them everywhere, and they've improved upon them greatly, and they are mostly affordable and delicious. So we want to educate people that there are replacements for milk and cheese. And anything else you want to say about the benefits of going vegan? Because that's just one thing we can do if we think about the baby cows and the mama cows and the daddy cows. It directly correlates to saving them, hopefully, down the line.
I mean, it's the best thing we can possibly do. That it's a direct impact. If we buy these dairy products, we're literally paying for these things to happen. If we go vegan and we don't pay for dairy or for eggs or for meat, then we're directly not supporting these terrible things. So, and it's just a great feeling to have a delicious meal and be able to think about where your food came from and know that nobody had to suffer.
Right.
Intentionally because you wanted a certain taste. We can have all these same amazing tastes. Now, I've always loved food, but I love food even more now than I ever did before. And it's really fun to veganize all the meals that my grandma would make and that my mom made my whole life. And I think it's really a service to them and their food as well, to make it healthier and make it kinder and more compassionate. And I guess Sorry, what was my...
No, you said we're talking about one of the biggest benefits of going vegan is, food tastes better. It's even more pleasurable to eat because it's guilt-free eating. Nothing suffered, nothing, you're not eating pain and death in that way. And there's plenty of options, and that's what we want people to know. And they can reach out to us if they're curious about that. So talk about the Done with Dairy campaign.
Yeah, sure. So hashtag Done with Dairy is the campaign that was started at the beginning of May. And initially it was going to be for May and June. A lot has happened in these past few months, and so we decided pretty early on it was probably going to get extended, but it's going to be an ongoing campaign. We encourage everyone to use the hashtag Done with Dairy. And other hashtags as well. Dairy is scary is great to use. But whenever you make a post that either shows the exploitation that goes on within the industry, or a positive post showing a recipe or showcasing an alternative product, if you use that hashtag, it makes it easy for other people to find. And the reason that we decided to start with dairy, to go after really hard for this campaign, is because we do feel like most people know that in order to procure meat, an animal has to die. Everybody basically, even kids, when they get to a certain age, they know that in order for you to have chicken on your plate, that a chicken had to die, or sometimes many if you're having chicken wings. And on the other hand, with the dairy industry, as I mentioned earlier, I'd been vegetarian for almost 2 decades and had no idea what was happening. And I think that is the case with many people. I've talked to so many people in the last 5 years since I went vegan, many of them women who have children themselves, who are shocked to find out that cows don't just eat grass and make milk, that it's actually their breast milk that's because they've been made to be pregnant and had a baby. It's kind of got shock value still, I guess you would say. Because we're not as desensitized to this information, because we literally don't know it. We haven't thought about it, and it's never been given to us willingly for the most part. So that's one of the big reasons we feel like, also, as we've done tons of outreach for the past couple years, increasingly we hear people are disgusted by drinking cow's milk, and they're like, oh yeah, I drink almond milk, I drink oat milk, I drink pea milk, whatever it might be. And so we also notice once we ask them about cheese and ice cream and other, they kind of like, oh wait, that is the same, isn't it? They kind of don't connect them at the beginning. But we've seen trends that there is, rather than saying go vegan, go vegan, go vegan, everything in the Done with Dairy campaign obviously has a vegan message behind it, but so many people we feel like would be more receptive to finding out the information about the dairy industry and having more of a be done with dairy start to the process of them going vegan, I guess is the hope.
Whatever window you can fit ourselves into. It's a really great campaign. I've been part of it. It's just educating people online and offline, so people can look up the page, look up the group. It's done with dairy. So let's as we start to wrap up. You have a son, and he goes by Vegan Evan. And tell us how old Evan is now, and he's making quite an impact, quite well known nationally and maybe even beyond, again, as an animal activist at his age, an impact on kids and adults. So say a little bit about what Evan does and his mission.
All right. So yeah, Evan makes me incredibly proud. I don't know what I would be doing without him, because he's really the one that pushed us to continue educating ourselves about the different industries and what's actually happening. So I had been vegetarian when he was born, but I didn't raise him vegetarian. I hoped that if I instilled the same empathy and compassion in him that was instilled in me, and if I told him the truth, I hoped that one day he'd make the choice and go vegetarian too. I didn't expect that when he was 4 he'd want to stop eating animals for the most part. He did want to eat some fish still at first, until he read articles about fish having friends and feeling pain, and then didn't want to hurt them either. About a month after he turned 5, I watched Cowspiracy while he was asleep, and I had a coworker who told me a little bit about the dairy industry. I couldn't believe it. I went home, looked that up, had seen the documentary, decided to try vegan, and Evan wanted to do it too. So he has, for the last 4 years, been speaking all over, and he goes to these places, he goes to slaughterhouses and to farms. I always give him the option. Sometimes I try to talk him out of it, and he tells me that he wants to see what's happening so that he knows what he's fighting for, and so he could tell people what's really going on and that he's seen it himself. And so basically, yeah, he's a rapper and a speaker, and he's my biggest inspiration. And I think it's so sad that, so he's 9, he'll be 10 next month. And I think it's so sad that somebody that's his age and, you know, all his friends, that they have to deal with any of this. I'm sad that we have a world where, you know, our species is doing the most horrendous things to the most innocent and vulnerable beings on the planet, and that we're destroying the planet by doing all these terrible things. And our children are the ones that are going to have to deal with these repercussions in a way that we can't even really fathom at this point. But I'm so proud of him that, you know, he's found out the information that he has, and he really wants to do something about it and do his best to make the world a better place. The animals are his friends. He visits them at the sanctuaries. He knows them. He loves them just like other kids love cats and dogs. And yeah.
Well, I will say that he has already made a difference, and he's going to continue to make a difference. I can tell it moves you, right? It's right amidst all the horror, there is this ray of hope that the next generation will forge forward and take actions and make a difference in the world. And, you know, perhaps Evan will be a leader in that. I mean, you're certainly raising someone to possibly be that. So I really honor you and your path and all that you do and the mission that you're on and the message that you have. And I thank you for being with me today, and tell Evan I said hello, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for everything that you do. You're an incredible activist, and you're very inspiring, and we're happy to know you. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much. We're wrapping up another enlightening show. Humans have the unique capacity to understand the consequences of their actions and change accordingly. I hope you're ready to choose actions that match your true compassionate nature. Thank you, Monday Morning Flowers in Princeton, for the beautiful floral arrangement. Thank you for watching. Check out MicheleGranberg.com, go vegan, and join me next time on Positive Energy.